last week at the Atlanta Falcons New Orleans Saints game. In a live video that's now going viral, King Harris, son of T.I. Harris, or Clifford T.I. Harris, and
Clifford is
rapper Clifford T.I. Harris, and his wife. What is Tiny's first name? That's crazy. I should know that.
I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie. I just call it Tiny, to be honest.
Yeah, Tiny. Well, we need to look that up.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Address her appropriately. Tiny Harris gets into an argument with his parents over how he was raised. King claims he was never Tamika. I should know that.
I should have known that too. I actually did know that. Actually, I just go
ahead. King claims he was never raised with a silver spoon and is from the trap.
That nigga crazy.
I got two questions.
What is it?
How do you feel about this situation between King and his parents? That's the first question. And do you think King's actions were warranted?
First of all, that little boy crazy. Because him being 19 years, he's 19 now. Yeah. Him being 19 years old, he is his daddy's son. Because this T.I. Clifford, T.I. is where he gets this personality from but it's all personality. It has nothing to do with his environment. Just putting that out there, because T.I. came from the trap. T.I. had to do, they were talking about in the video, you ain't never woke up with roaches crawling on you and yada, yada, yada. You ain't from the hood. You ain't from the trap. You ain't never had to do this. They were talking about that in the live that King posted. But that's what T.I. came from. T.I. was actually in that. Now, moving on to King. King is a product of his mom and his dad's success. So with Tiny being with Escape and making those hits that they made throughout the late 90s, early 2000s, and T.I. writing for others, T.I. being the king of the South and his early 2000 success as a rapper, and still now as a rapper, now comedian, being a movie star, you know what I'm saying? Entrepreneur, there you go. Like, he is a product of his parents' success. And to say that now being born with a silver spoon is subjective, because yes, he was born into success, but having a silver spoon is a product of wealth, not riches, what we talked about in the intro. You know what I'm saying? And I can't sit here and say that I'm assuming that T.I. isn't wealthy. I know that he's rich, but I don't know what his assets look like. So I can't say that he isn't wealthy. But at the same time, it's like, if you look at the timeline of T.I. himself, now he might have assets, but I don't think he had that back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Whenever he first got on. This is just my assumption, just my speculation. Don't cuss me out, but you're going to do it anyway. So go ahead and have at it. But in the sense of the word, was he born with a silver spoon in his mouth, King? Yes, 100%. But I to be perfectly honest with you, I see where he's coming from, because he didn't want to be behind the gates. He didn't want to live that lavish lifestyle. And I understand it, but at the same time, you can't sit here and act like you from the trap when you're not from the trap. You're not from the hood. He's not from the hood. But he's portraying this lifestyle on social media that he's such a thug and a gangster and this, that, and the third. And he talking about how he never lived at his mom and daddy house. He always wanted to go to his grandma's house, but that's because his grandma spoiled him. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, King just has this persona about himself that he wants to be included so bad in that thug gangster trap. He actually said in the live, y'all want to go to the bando? Y'all want to see the bando? Y'all want to go to the bando? Like, he's excited. It's like exciting to him. It's not a struggle to him. It's excitement, because he doesn't know what it actually feels like because of what he came from. So to answer the question, yes, he was born with a silver spoon. And to me, to be perfectly honest with you, he just put on a show. He's doing what a lot of young kids know to do today, and how to get fame and how to get rich is to go viral. And that's what he's doing. And he's trying to put on a persona that he's something that he's actually not. Because if I had to look at King, and if it actually came down to some real thugs, some real street, some real hood shit, King wouldn't be nowhere to be found. That's just my personal opinion. But what you think about it, bro?
So before I give my answer, I watched the Cam Newton Funky Friday Charleston White interview yesterday. Changed my opinion of Charleston White slightly, in his thought process. He still says it. So Cam said it throughout the whole interview. It's a lot of truth in what you say and what Charleston White says, but the delivery is what puts people off. And so his delivery is out of whack. But if you dig into it, there's a lot of truth in everything he says. So he said kids that come from privilege or that come from a better situation than the little poor babies in the hood are enamored with hood life because of boredom. And that's exactly what you just said. Is enamored with the hood life because of boredom. Now, I will say this. I feel like absolutely King came up in a privileged life. He benefited from the success of both of his parents. Like we mentioned, R&B singer, writer Tamika Tiny Harris and her success, and the uber success of TI as a rapper, as a movie star, a comedian, entrepreneur, and Tiny's probably in some of those entrepreneur endeavors with Tip as well. Materialistically, he came from privilege. Now, when it comes from having the privilege of having his parents around constantly, probably not. And I think that's where the disconnect comes from, is because, and the resentment and this blow up and all of these blow ups come from that we are seeing with King is, yeah, my parents had all of this. Yeah, my parents could provide for me, but I stay with my grandma. And the reason I stay with my grandma is because my mom and dad was always on the road, and they were on the road, so I never spent time with them. And kids, they try to make sense of what you're doing for them. They try to make sense of the money that you can provide for them. But the only currency kids really understand is time and presence. Yeah. You are a great example of that. You moved across the country to be present for your daughter. And she loves you for that, right? Yeah. That's the only thing kids understand is time and presence. And so, yeah, you in the same breath, finish that thought. I absolutely think he is privileged because of what his parents could provide for him, because of situations that he was in, materialistically. He probably is not privileged with the ability to have his parents around him as often as he would like. But in the same breath, and on the flip side of this whole argument, I think that successful parents that have to be away from the house and are trying to do the best that they can to provide for the kids, provide a better life, are damned if they do, damned if they don't. Because if you're not out doing the best you can, if you're not out sacrificing the time away from the house to make the money, to provide the life that you want for your kids and for yourself, then when they don't get to have these things, and if they are in a less fortunate life, when they grow up, they're going to go down the same path that you're in now. It's like ever changing, unchanging cycle.
Never changing. Yeah.
Yeah, a never changing cycle that they're in, right?
Yep.
Like what they see on a daily basis is what they'll grow up to attain and try to achieve as well. But if you are out, making a decent living, spending a lot of time chasing your dreams and doing the things you feel necessary to help the kids, then they grow up and resent you because you were never there. And it's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if you don't do it, then the kids may have a great chance. Their chances of them growing up to live the same lifestyle that you did are greater than if you are able to show them the different things in life and get them out of the situation that you grew up in and provide them a better life. So it's like, I understand both sides and why this situation is super complex. We could probably talk about this the whole, because it's very different nuances of the situation. It's like, I understand that part. I understand that part. The trauma, I understand. So it's just crazy.
Because all he's doing right now, all he's been doing over the past, I would say, since the pandemic, it's just he's just been rebelling, honestly. And a lot of teenagers go through that rebellious phase, which is cool. I'm glad I haven't seen that with mine yet, but when it come, I'll be able to handle it because I understand. Because I had a little bit of a rebellious phase back in the day too, in high school, 10th, 12th grade. We all did. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that portion of it. And I also understand what you said too, Dan if you do, Dan if you don't, because if he wasn't out there providing for his family, then they wouldn't be, if he wasn't the megastar, if they weren't the megastars that they were, their family wouldn't have the things that they had. And then he would really be, then at that point, he probably would really be in the trap. He would really be from the hood because you're coming up on, you know, what national average is for a salary every single year, $30,000 to $40,000. So that is in a lot of places that is struggling. In some places it's living good, but in some places it's struggling. So it's like, but you weren't born into that. You weren't born into that median household income lifestyle. You were born in the upper echelon of earners, over the top 1% of people that earns in the United States. So you got to understand that although you're rebelling and you want to, you're intrigued by what the people from the actual hood, the po babies, as Charleston White said, you're intrigued by what they do. But it's like I said on this show a couple of times, it's boredom theory. You're bored, so you causing problems. You're bored, so you're creating things in your head that are not where you're from or what you have experience in. So you're bored. And I get it. It's cool, bro. Like you've had a privileged life and you haven't had to fight for anything in your life. You haven't had to work for anything in your life. So you bored. And I get it. But even when he talked about he was living with his grandma even had a big house, a mansion, basically, from Tiny and T.I. that T.I. was paying for. So you can't even really say that you lived at your grandma's house because even your grandma was in a nice house in a nice neighborhood. So you can't even say that. Though? Yeah, that's true. 100%.
Okay.
But according
I asked that because I remember Tiny saying at one point in time during or after the recordings of their show that they had on VH1, Tiny and T.I. and Tiny's The Family Hustle, that she did say that King grew up in the hood with his grandma. I remember that.
So okay, and even King said that in the live was like there was a bando down the street from grandma's house or around the corner from grandma's house that y'all want to go see the bando. And I mean, I guess in a sense that there is a different perspective of what
hood is
and what it's not. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I don't. He long story short, King ain't grew up in no hood.
Yeah. Simple. I think we can all agree on that.
We can all agree on that. But one question I wanted to ask you though, D-Lo, because I know you have a skepticism about what's on the internet, and you kind of got to look at things and say, you know, is this real or was this to do? You know what I'm saying? So I actually took that thought process going into this because a couple of days after this whole debacle, they dropped the song. So I was like, was this whole situation just a publicity stunt for the song dropping, Father Like Sons, that dropped on yesterday? So was this what that was for, D-Lo? Do you think? You know what I'm saying? Was it? I personally think it was a real ordeal that happened at the game, but it's just funny how it kind of rolled up to the release of the song and how they talked about it after that happened on that Sunday. So what you think?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can go that route and have that thought process, especially because not only did they release a song, they also released a segment. I think it was called Goat Talk or something like that with Complex, not to be confused with Us Too Complex. But they also released that. So you definitely can go that, you have that thought process. I don't think that is the case in this instance, though. I just think like all of the trauma, the perceived trauma that King has placed upon himself. And he's not the only Harris child or the child of Tiny and TI that have came out and said that they didn't stay with them and it's not what you think it is. I think that perceived trauma has built up in him. And this is just one of the episodes that happened at an unfortunate time. It all started because they were playfully picking with him about growing up in privilege, and he was denouncing it. But then it kind of took a turn for the worse when they said the only reason you stayed with your grandma is because you wanted to suck on that pacifier until 12 and we wouldn't let you. Exactly. And then from there it went left, right? So I don't know if he felt like he was shamed by that because he was recording, and people might have forgot that, because again, you also remember that in the show, like he was always on pacifier all the time. He was. And so like I don't know if he was shamed by that, and so that's why he got upset or whatever. But I don't think like this was a publicity stunt for that. I could be wrong. It just doesn't seem like that, because King has had a history of doing things especially in the last 2 years or so, doing things that are kind of questionable. But I do also know that he's been trying to portray himself as a hood baby, because that's the type of rap that he wants to dive into, following the footsteps of his dad.
But that's the thing, though. How can you rap about and talk about something that you ain't never experienced? But see, you know what? I can't even say that, because
Michael Irvin's son did it, and Michael Irvin called him out on it. I mean, it's just what kids do. Jadakiss grew up in a damn private school, and his dad. We didn't know that until recently, when his dad was like, "Man, you grew up you went to a private school, and you rapping about this and that." Yeah, and I let you do it because of I never said anything because of what you were providing for us, but this is exactly who you were. You know what I mean? Right. So it's not beyond belief. This is what goes on.
That is true. That is true. You got a point. I can concede that, because it's like, because even we talk. You know what? I ain't gonna get into that because we're gonna have people talking shit. But it's just it's just funny. And like you said, we can go on and on about this all day if we wanted to. But to put a bow on it, from my perspective, he came from privilege, and I can understand why he would have these rebellious moments, because of course, he didn't live in the house all the time with T.I. and Tiny, because they were always on the road, they were always doing something. They're both stars, with T.I. being a megastar. So, they probably were at their grandma's house all the time, and they probably were outside a lot more of the times, outside of those gates, which is what King was talking about in that video. So it was like, I can get it, but at the same time, you were brought up with a silver spoon. You were one of the privileged kids. You were intrigued by the hood life, but you're not from the hood. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for you to be out here denouncing the life that you had, and trying to lead something different that you have no experience in, to me is crazy. But that's boredom theory for you. You feel me? So yeah. Oh, y'all still here? That means y'all must like the content then. And if that's the case, go ahead and click on that video right here. We think you're going to love this one as well. And we still got the 500 subscriber goal. Help us get to that. Hit that subscribe button right there on the screen too. And we on all your streaming platforms, wherever you find your podcast.